good evening and welcome everyone. This is the April meeting of our El Dorado Hills Community Council. We hold these monthly and they're usually the first Monday of the month, but sometimes we have to reschedule for other dates. So welcome to this. The first thing after having the call to order is we always go around and just introduce the leadership team with what we call roll call, and then we'll do some recognition of other district commissioners and committee members who are present tonight. So let's start with Lauren tonight and go around this way. So please, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. And I'm also a commissioner on the
John Davey, I'm the chair of the El Dorado Hills Area Planning Advisory Committee. We're a group of volunteer residents who analyze and review proposed development projects in El Dorado Hills and provide feedback to the planning process.
I'm John Idle, District 1 Supervisor, and I represent 75% of the population of El Dorado Hills, 37,000 residents. The population of El Dorado Hills, if you look at 95762, is about 50,000, a little over 50,000. So I also wanted to introduce Supervisor George Turnbull. He's here representing District 2, and I believe he has about 20% of the population within El Dorado Hills. You probably know the number better than I do. Well, I know I got 75%, so. So anyway, we are both supervisors representing the vast majority of El Dorado Hills. That's the point I wanted to make. So welcome, George, and you're welcome to comment throughout the meeting as well. So with that, we'll go to Cindy.
I'm Cindy Munt. I'm Supervisor Heidel's assistant, and I do the community information and outreach for the community council.
I'm Richard Ross. My general role on the committee is to look at good governance, and Don will be very pleased by this tonight. This is exactly what the county website says. Good governance is achieving the best possible process for making and implementing decisions characterized by honesty, integrity, accountability, transparency, responsiveness, equability, inclusion, effectiveness, and efficiency, and following the rule of law. I usually say, I look at how government works and doesn't work.
Very good. Thank you, Richard.
Okay, and I'm Michael Anthel, Deputy Chief with El Dorado Hills Fire Department. I chair the Public Safety Committee. Essentially, if there's a public safety related issue, I try and connect your concern with the appropriate body, whether it's the CHP or the sheriff or the fire department or any of those types of groups. And for those of you that haven't been here, there's bathrooms right outside and on the right outside this door. And if we run short on chairs, I'll grab some more, but there are two up front if anybody's looking for a spot to sit. Two up here in the front. Thank you.
My name is Bob Williams, brand new to the committee. I am very honored to be able to represent District 2. And thank you for extending that invitation to this council for our representation. And thank you, George, for asking me to humbly serve this district. So, thank you.
And I'm expecting when we ask you to give a report later in the meeting, you'll be commenting on things that happen south of Highway 50, right? So
Lots of comments
within
within 3 minutes.
So we'll look forward to hearing those, because one of the things we have to emphasize here is transparency. We want to share with you information that we can properly share. So we're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to make sure that we're as accessible as possible. And that's why this community council was set up. It isn't just me trying to serve my constituents. It's me and a group of leaders trying to serve our constituents. So that's why we have so many members of the community council. So thank you for that. And I'll just mention that Kathy Guerrero, who is our Commissioner for Healthy Communities, is not with us this evening. She had another commitment, so we'll cover that separately. And then also John Vania, who represents infrastructure, is a retired DOT employee, understands a lot about traffic and circulation and things that have been done in the county for the year. He's not with us this evening either, but he is a regular attendee. So we always have access to ask him for information and get inputs as necessary. So with that, I'd also like to quickly just recognize anyone who is a District 1 commissioner and or committee member, if they're present, and District 2 too. So if you're a District 2 commissioner or committee member, because we have such a large group, can you please raise your hand so I can see anybody that would like to be recognized? Yeah. So Chris Payne, let's go with you first. Do you have a microphone, Chris? Okay. I think John's going to bring one to you.
Phil Donahue.
And so if you're speaking, we need to have you speak into the microphone so people on Zoom can hear you. You won't hear it in the room, but you will hear it if you were on Zoom, so.
Thank you for acknowledging me. I was here at the last meeting, and certainly a lot more people today. But I am the District 2 Planning Commissioner. George Turnbull has appointed me. I've been doing the job now for over a year. That's my comments, and I'm going to enjoy the topics on your agenda.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Chris. Who else do we have? We're in the back of the room here, yeah.
Hi, I'm Melinda Peak. I'm on the Cemetery Commission for representing this district. And we take care of issues with both the county-owned cemeteries and private cemeteries and are working hard to get student laborers right now to help out from Sonoma State. So that's our latest. So thank you.
Melinda? I think Tim White also wanted to be recognized, right?
Tim White, I'm the alternate member appointed by Supervisor Heidel to the Charter Revision Committee. I'm also on the El Dorado Hills Fire Board of Directors. I was elected by the 42 special districts to be one of their 2 LAFCO commissioners. And I'm also the vice chair of APAC. And as John Davey always says, I'm also, when I'm not on it time, I'm also a master gardener in El Dorado County.
Right, very good, very important role. Anyone else present who we have not recognized as of yet? Okay, let's go to our online Zoom participants. Tita Bladen, are you on?
Tita Bladen's not, but Keith Bladen is. I'm Tita's husband, and I'm a commissioner on the newly formed Commission for Youth and Families. Thanks for
Very
having me.
good. Thank you, Keith. And Tita is on our Commission on Aging.
Right.
She served us
So-
for many, many years in that capacity, so.
So I do the aging, she does the youth. We got everything covered. And she right now, I think right now, you all know her well. She's in Santa Barbara on a girls' trip and probably having a nice little cocktail.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Good to hear.
Let me see, I saw
Anyone
I
else?
saw Wendy May. Let me see.
Wendy May, are you on with us?
There she is.
Thank you. Yes, I am. I had to unmute. Thank you, Supervisor Heidel, and good evening, everyone. Wendy May here, your Director of the Tax Assessor Appeals Board. And if I may just say, I heard Lauren's first portion, basically just her name. I don't think I'm the only one that missed her, so there's a problem with her microphone.
Okay, my name is Lauren Smimoto. I am a junior at Oak Ridge High School. I am the co-chair of the El Dorado County Youth Commission and a commissioner on the Behavioral Health Commission. And I'm here to voice and represent the ideas of students and youth in this community.
Thank you. I know who you are, but nobody else heard, but that's wonderful. Did this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy May. Anyone
Yes,
else?
Dr. Claveria.
Stephen Claire.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. I'm here. I'm only on one little commission, the Behavioral Health Commission, but it manages to keep me off the streets and out of trouble. So that's why I'm here.
That's a good thing. Thanks, Steve. Anyone else?
Raises her hand.
So the point I want to make is it takes a lot of volunteers to keep El Dorado County running effectively and serving the community. That's why you hear committees and commissions and people that have volunteered their time for the most part that are serving in that capacity. So I want to thank them especially for all the time they dedicate to helping this community. I also want to recognize that John Vania, who is our infrastructure lead, is also my planning commissioner. So he's the District 1 planning commissioner. So he would normally be here. And with Chris here as the District 2 planning commissioner, you get good representation that way as well. So with that, I'm going to move on to item 2, adoption of the regular meeting agenda. Does anyone on the leadership team have any proposed changes? All right, seeing none, we'll accept the agenda as submitted. Move on to item 3, public comment. This is the opportunity we would like to extend to everyone present and on Zoom to go ahead and bring up an item where you may have a comment, you may have a question for the community council that we can listen to, and then we'll appropriately sign it and probably take a response from there. So we limit it typically to 3 minutes, and I do understand that there's a number of people here who are interested in Project Frontier. So I'm going to talk about it briefly a little bit later after our guest speaker, Sheriff Leikauf, goes. Robert will be speaking to it, so I would encourage one participant maybe to be the representative, because I've been getting a lot of email, and we're not going to be here to answer questions because this is not a public hearing. So we would like to hear your general comments and or questions, but we're not going to be able to answer them tonight. We'll have to defer that to a follow-up. So with that understanding, and please use one of the microphones, either the one here on the podium or one of these portal ones. And if you would voluntarily identify yourself so we know who's speaking, that way it's easier for us to record in the minutes. So how do we get started? Who would like to speak under public comment? There you go. Thank you.
John, hi, everybody.
Hi.
Can you hear?
It's just a Zoom.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
right. Do you want me to speak into your thing there?
You just have to speak loudly to the room is what we
Okay.
asked for. Yeah.
So a lot of people are here for Project Frontier. I think my question or my statement is, and I'm fairly new to the county processes. I'm used to Alameda County. But projects of this size usually have a design review process that they follow. So I'm curious why we haven't done that. And even the county zoning section 130 even states that complex projects, even under a zoning hearing, should be booted up to the planning commission. So what I'm really here to ask is I'd like to see both you and Supervisor Turnbull put an item on your agenda next time, moving this whole discussion to the planning commission. There's a lot of talk about you hear people saying the corruption, they don't care, they're not listening, secrecy. And I think we ought to really just have an open process. So I don't know why the county, maybe the administrator advised you to have this kind of a process, but I think that the planning commissioners really ought to demand that this process be brought to them. No way should this ever be heard by a zoning administrator. This is a project that is almost the size of the Pentagon. Pentagon is 6.5 million acre feet. This is 4.8. It's a huge, massive project. And all we have is developer comments on traffic counts, which frankly no one believes. There are impacts which no one seems to be listening to. And we trust you guys to basically look after us, to protect us. And we need a hearing. We need this to be flushed out. We don't want a ministerial approval process. So I was going to ask you other questions about it, but I mean, if that's statements, that's basically basically what my statement is. We're really looking for the county to bring this forward. In fact, I would urge both you and Supervisor Turnbull's here someplace tonight. Oh, sorry. I would urge both of you to put an item on your next agenda. Put it up for an up or down vote. Just ask the other supervisors if they want to put this to the planning commission. You're either going to say yes or they're going to say no. If they say yes, great. Then we'll have an open process. We can talk about all these issues. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There might be misinformation coming from the public. There's definitely misinformation coming from the applicant. And I don't see anybody asking hard questions, though, that we seem to be accepting that. I'm curious whether the county has its own economic summary of the benefits, because you probably, John, saw the tax, the ranges that they gave. Some of the ranges are wild. And so we don't have any, nobody's vetted those numbers. The county should be doing that. We should, if we have to, if we don't have in-house expertise, we ought to be hiring our own consultant to look at the county numbers. If we're going to do something like this, if that's what we want to bring in, then we definitely should have a process where we know what we're getting in return.
Can you give me your name so I can follow up with you? Because
Sorry, Tom Fox, F-O-X.
Tom Fox, thank you. Okay.
And I live at Blackstone. I'm vice president of the Blackstone HOA. Yeah, I'm in George.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome to,
So,
yeah.
so we will follow up because there's a process. I've asked for a fact sheet to be put together so everybody understands what the process is, because it's a little misleading if you just go look in documents of the county. So we are trying to get that information out, and as soon as it's out, available, it will make it public to everyone, but I want to give you a response. Make sure that George and I respond to you, your comments particularly. We're not going to answer them tonight, but
Yeah,
thank
no,
you for your
I
commentary.
understand that. So I think process-wise, I think that's you hit the nail on the head. That's probably the number one thing that people are concerned about.
because this looks like a ministerial process, approving a barbershop variance, not something this large. So if we're going to follow process, I think we ought to follow the county's own codes and ordinances for the design review process. And that requires a full application with hearing before the planning commission, as I understand it.
We'll explain that later. I'm not going to get into the back and forth, but thank you, Tom. Yes.
My name is George Steed. I'm a resident of Heritage. I'm also a officer and director with the Concerned Residents of Heritage Village. And I'm speaking in opposition to Project Frontier. I don't want to repeat what Tom said, but I do have some serious questions about the handling of Project Frontier, particularly when it comes to the issue of transparency in government. One of the key questions that all of us have is, when did the supervisors hear about this and how long have they known about it? One of the key issues that comes up for us in Heritage, as you know, there's a second senior community that is right adjacent to the property where this facility is going to be built. And Mr. Hydal, I know that you voted in favor of that rezone in August of 21. And it's quite evident from some of the public documents that this planning process on this parcel of land took place long before 2021. Rather irresponsible to be putting senior housing right next to a facility such as being proposed here. I think that I strongly represent most of the people in Heritage when we say we are very opposed to this project, and we are going to voice our opinions very loudly and very widely.
As you have a right to do. Thank you, George.
Good afternoon. My name is Chuck King. I'm the president of the Blackstone Homeowners Association and also Citizens in Support of El Dorado Hills, which is a newly formed association. As it relates specifically and beyond Project Frontier. I'm not going to speak to what the two gentlemen before me did. We won't overlap. But I want you to know that we have some serious concerns about the non-disclosure agreement and the purpose of it and the willingness of the county to enter into that, which seems to have bypassed a lot of processes. And from where we stand, it looks like dirty pool. Deeply concerned about the amount of time that this has really been in the works. And one question that I would like to get answered tonight, and I'll go sit down, but I want to know when the first time this county actually had conversations with Amazon about coming up here, which I recognize that we're not saying it's Amazon, but I have high confidence that it is. But let's just say the tenant or the prospective tenant of Project Frontier, when's the first time we had conversations with them? In the APAC meeting last month, Mr. Condon said the first time that they talked to anybody at the county was April of last year, but we know that's not true based off documents. So we need to know what the truth is and where we're going with this. And please provide some clarity for us if you would.
The contact was made to the planning department, so I can't give you a specific date. So typically the supervisors don't find out about a project until it gets to a certain level of review. So I don't know exactly when they were initially contacted. I do know there was a proposed project there before, which was residential housing. And that goes back a couple of years. So it depends on what part of that proposed development you're talking about. It's different people who are proposing it. Same landowner, but different client, so to speak. So we'll have to get that information. We'll try to make sure it's in that fact sheet, because that's what I've asked them to put together, is that chronological history.
Okay, and I appreciate that. And I want to be clear on the information I'm asking for is, when did the county first entertain Amazon as somebody coming into the county? Mm-hmm. And was it the county that pursued them, or was it Amazon that came to the county? Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Appreciate that, Chuck.
Hi, my name's Bill Woodruff. I'm a resident of Crescent Hills, I think it's called. It's just up above the senior center. So I'll be impacted through just the compactation, the traffic mess that will occur on this end of Latrobe. My comment has more to do with I'm hungry to see a vision for South and Latrobe Road or any other part of the county we call El Dorado Hills Community Service District. It's not a city. And how this project is compatible with that vision. I see containers, shipping containers and trucks working 24 hours a day, 200 acres of pavement, lights, yeah, they point down, but they point down on white concrete. I'm not a resident of Blackstone. I'm not going to be directly impacted by that. But what I don't see is a process where there's a vision with public comment where we all get to participate. I don't know how this makes any sense. I'll get one more comment and then I'll sit down. I like to think I'm a logical person. When something doesn't make sense, that's because there's something I don't know. Educate us. A 1 million square foot facility that Amazon would plop down anywhere is just like any other 1 million square foot facility that Amazon will plop down. It's well understood how it works. A 3.5 million square foot, 5-story building is illogical. It doesn't fit in any model I can come up with the way Amazon moves goods, unless containers are coming directly off of ships to here that will then transship out to other Amazon warehouses. There's no other way to rationalize the square footage from a logical basis. And if that's the case, there's no tax revenue for the county. So my primary question is, what's the process and what's the vision? And then I go back to Chuck and Tom's comments. So let's get this, let's hit a reset button, get this in front of the Planning Commission with no NDA.
Thank you, Bill.
My name's Richard Perrin. I'm a resident of Blackstone, and you're all elected officials to publicly take care of us and help us and direct us. And I do not see, and I would really like an answer from somebody on how you felt it was the best idea for the public to have an NDA with a private company on a project this large without talking to anybody. You do not have our best interest at heart if you're signing NDAs behind our back.
Let me just clarify, the Board of Supervisors did not sign the NDA. We were a party to the signature of the NDA. So again, we'll try to put a lot in the fact sheet. Hopefully that will give you a clear picture of what happened, what transpired. Pardon? The county in itself is representing the planning function. So we were advised of an NDA. That NDA was signed by our planning department, as I understand it. It was not individually signed by the Board of Supervisors. So we'll try to get clarity on that, make sure everybody's aware of it, but there was a purpose or reason why the NDA was proposed, and we'll try to share that as well. So last one.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I'm Matt Taliaferro. I'm a resident of Blackstone. And with regard to the NDA, does the county know who the end user is? Just a simple yes or no.
I do not know. I can't tell you if the county knows. The county is a function of a lot of different people, so I can't tell you that answer, but I do not know.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Matt, and Matt, your name was Talia, correct?
One word. T-A-L.
Yeah.
F is in Frank, E-R-R-O.
Thank you. Okay. Get a microphone, please. And I'm going to let you do one go back, and then we got to move on to our guest speaker, because I don't want to keep the sheriff here all evening, but.
No, they can speak during the actual item.
You said it's not you guys, I didn't know that. So I guess it doesn't come from the CPO either?
The planning department makes the decision based upon the zoning ordinance, which defines the process and the eligibility for certain projects to go through certain types of reviews. So again, that will be part of the fact sheet, but it's not the supervisors who determine that. Yes. Following the process, yes, but we'd have to get to the Board of Supervisors before I would be willing to direct anybody to do anything, because we don't have the information yet, right? All the information, so. And we're going to talk about that much more later on, because I'm sure Bob is going to have a report. We'll get to talk to that as well. And I'm going to give you an update a little bit on where we are as part of my comments. So, but thank you. So at this point, I'm going to ask that we defer the online members until a later part of the discussion. We will hear your comments as well, but I really don't want to detain the sheriff any longer. He was gracious enough to show up in person and to share with us as the guest speaker what his 90 days in office and other things were all about. So at this point, I do want to invite Sheriff Leikauf to the microphone, and please provide us some inputs on how busy you've been lately, because I know you have been busy, Jeff, so.
Is this thing on, or can everybody hear me? Is that good? Everybody hear me? No?
You have to speak up to the crowd, but
Okay.
they'll pick you up on Zoom for the microphone, but anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me tonight, and I didn't think everybody was here to see me. I was like, holy cow, they really did want to meet me, but I appreciate everybody coming. So when Supervisor Heidel asked me to come in and talk about my first 90 days, and just give everybody a chance to meet me. I've been very busy. There was a reason why Sheriff DiAugustini, coming down the home stretch, when he would shoot me a text message, and the text message would have something in it like, "Are you ready?" And would have laughing and crying emojis on this thing. So anyways, it's been extremely busy. My first weekend, which really wasn't officially my first weekend, one of the first things we've been dealing with and everybody's been dealing with is the storms. And so coming in, waking up Saturday morning, we walked him out of the building on Friday and he was gone. He went and had his retirement party. And Saturday morning rolls around and it rained all day and all night, and we were dealing with the floods. And so I found myself at 6:30 in the morning in OES, and we were getting an emergency declaration in order and signing it. Our CFO walked out and looked at both of us and goes, "I don't know who's supposed to sign this," but we were both there, and he ended up signing it because officially he was still a sheriff until that following Monday when I was sworn in. So pretty proud of my OES staff right now. We're managing 4 different disasters, basically, or not typically disasters, but we are managing the mosquito fire. Office of Emergency Services. I'm sorry. There's so many acronyms getting thrown at me too right now. Office of Emergency Services. So they're managing the Caldor fire and the recovery efforts, mosquito fire, obviously the floods, which we're being reimbursed for right now. And then we're currently working on this last big snowmageddon thing we had up in Tahoe. So that's one of the first things that I found myself dealing with. And then staffing levels. Obviously we're running at about a 13% vacancy rate agency-wide. Most of those are correctional officers, sheriff's techs, and dispatchers. But I'm happy to come in tonight and probably for about a week be able to tell you that we are at 0 deputy vacancies in the county right now. So that is unheard of in the state of California. I mean, everybody right now is running very, very high percentages of finding qualified candidates to come in and be deputy sheriffs in their counties. We're fortunate up here. We pulled out some data from a real estate website that says we're the second safest county to live in the state of California, crime per capita. We do have crime still, but when you go California wide, we're the second safest. So there's a reason why people are moving to El Dorado County, because we are a county of law and order, and we get out and we work hard for our citizens and our community. So would like to find some correctional officers to staff our correctional. We're really hurting for dispatchers. So if anybody knows of anybody that's looking for a career in our agency, we could fill those those spots. We also are allocating, we got 5 allocations for 4 allocations for sheriff security officers to go up and work around the county buildings to manage the kind of guide, get around it, to oversee the homeless and what's going on up there right now with the homeless shelter. So we're currently in the process of screening candidates and recruiting for that. One thing I am worried about too with our staffing levels is we're losing our tobacco grant this year, which means that we're losing the funding for 2 of our SROs. So actually 3, but the Prop 64 grant, we're going to be able to absorb one of those positions in a Prop 64 grant. So instead of 3, we're going to lose 2.
So SRO, Jeff, yeah, you probably should share with us, school resource officer, right?
SRO, school resource. So it's one of the things that we're worried about. Helicopter. I just in our management meeting today, our pilot that we selected, he's very qualified. He flew, I guess they're called paid hawk helicopters in the military. Was back in Florida, Jefferson Township, Florida, where we're purchasing a helicopter from, and they were putting him through the gamut of testing and piloting and flying the helicopter. And happy to say that he's passed with flying colors. They have no concerns. Our tactical flight, I almost said it TFO, but our tactical flight officer, we had 3 people test for that, and we borrowed Placer County. They came over. That's the assistant. That's the spotter that sits with the pilot and does everything he's supposed to be doing. We tested for that, and they were up in the helicopter last week with Placer County, flying over Placerville, doing different maneuvers and testing them, and they all did fairly well, but we're currently in the process of identifying one of them, and we're working on getting our hangar space up at the Placerville Airport, where we have to have a place to house this helicopter when we get it. So we're excited about that. 2 programs that I'm pretty passionate about right now, and I will be passionate about in my first year. The first one is our regional high-intensity drug unit, and Supervisor Turnbull was able to come in and sit in on a presentation that they did this past week, and the work that this unit's doing. It's a tri-county unit, so it's made up of members of our agency, Sacramento County, and Placer County. And their job is basically to disrupt the flow of drugs coming into our region, our county. So just going off some numbers, just to kind of let you guys know, and this past year, and I think they will surpass this easily this year. Last year, they seized over 500 pounds of fentanyl, which amounts to, I think it was over a couple million, 3 million tablets that are being shipped up here from Mexico. But they stopped this. Their goal is to stop it before it even comes into our region. Are we still getting it? Yes, it still finds its way up here. We had an overdose of a 65-year-old male this weekend, death from fentanyl. But the amount of fentanyl that this team has stopped from coming up to this region would have led to everybody in El Dorado County. It would have killed everybody in El Dorado County in 3 generations after. So cocaine, they've seized 9 pounds, heroin 21 pounds, marijuana plants 21,000, marijuana pounds 13,000, meth 510 pounds, methamphetamine. So firearms 79, they've had 87 arrests to include 16 federal indictments. So I'm pretty passionate about this team, and one of my goals this year is to get them more resources for that team, because they can even go out. And what they're doing in the state as it relates to other HIDTA units in the state, our team is number 1 by a landslide, by like head and shoulders above these other teams. And these include strike forces down in Southern California, which is closer to the border, which makes it even more impressive. So I'm pretty excited about that team and want to get them more resources. And then the last thing I'm pretty passionate about, and we're flying the position tomorrow to start recruiting for it. When I mentioned this to board supervisors, they're pretty excited about it, was our SHIELD program. And I wrote it down because I haven't figured out the acronym for it yet. It's safeguarding children through healthy initiatives, education, law enforcement, and deterrent. So basically what that is we're going to bring back the DARE program. I was a DARE officer early on in my career, and we can react all we want to this drug issue that we're currently facing with fentanyl and it making its way up in our region. But we also need to do take some preventative measures. And this officer, we have SROs in high school. I was an SRO at Oak Ridge High School for 3 years. But when you're an SRO in a high school, you've got to work extremely hard to have those relationships with those high school students. Once they're in high school, the last thing they really want to do is kind of hang out with the cop. You do find some that, you have to work hard at it. But junior high school, from the time I was an SRO back in the early 2000s to nowadays, we're starting to miss the junior high school age group. So I want to put this program in place. I've talked to Ed Monasala from EDCO, and we're going to put this program in. We're going to roll it out to the elementary school age kids. And it's going to be multifaceted with lesson plans, what they're going to be able to go in and teach these kids. And part of that is we're going to roll out, I'll pass these, I just brought them down here, you can pass them around, but these will be customized. The company's going to come in and make these for us. They're going to make up to 12 of these color books for us that we can pass out to the appropriate age group. And then magazines with information for the older kids so they can get this information out. We can pass those out. And they'll be customized for our agency. It's going to be a community-driven project, which the company that comes in goes around and they solicit local businesses to be a part of this with us. So it's kind of that community-oriented project going out. So other than that, I can answer some questions about the SHIELD program. Like I said, we're flying the position tomorrow to recruit for it. Then that person will give us the summertime to get them to the proper schools and get them trained on the lesson plan, what they need to be trained on, what they're going to be rolling out with. We're dedicating a car. We're going to get a car really wrapped really cool to represent the program. Probably, take part in a lot of the assemblies at our elementary schools throughout the year. It'll kind of look like an abbreviated version of Red Ribbon. I don't know if you're familiar with the Red Ribbon concept and what that looks like. It won't be as grand as that at their assemblies, but we definitely want to have that law enforcement presence at the elementary schools and work with these kids to do some prevention work. And someone posed a question to me: do you think? I don't think we'll see the impact this has until 5, 10, 15 years down the road. I beg to differ. I disagree with them. I think we'll see the immediate impact right off the bat, because if we can prevent these kids from, everybody's taking a pill for everything now, and they're making these fentanyl pills. Go back on the Trident thing and what we're learning. 6 out of the 10 pills that are being shipped up here have lethal doses of the fentanyl pill. That's why we're seeing so many of the overdoses. I think we had like 40 some odd overdoses this past year. So it is definitely something that has our attention, and we're going to do everything we can to get with the kids to try to do some prevention and some mitigation work with them, so we can protect our county. My goal is with the unit and with our SHIELD officer is to put as much of a protective bubble around El Dorado County as I can, and keep us the safest place to live, to work, to raise our families, to send kids to school, to own businesses, what have you. So that's pretty much all I have. I can get into, if anybody wants to know what we're doing weekly, I can let you know on average about what we're doing, calls for service, arrests, reports taken, things of that nature. But that's pretty much all I have tonight.
Okay,
I was telling John, we do have a very cool presentation, pretty wazoo, that we put up on the screen, and I didn't know that you guys were this technologically advanced down here. I should have figured you were, but I can definitely come back and visit again and bring that, and we've rolled it out twice and everybody seems to really appreciate it and like it. So something we can do. So,
Very good.
thank you.
So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions from our leadership team.
Okay.
John.
Thanks for coming tonight, Sheriff. On the Shield project, in addition to the magazines, will they be digital as well? Because I know with my kids, they don't pick up a magazine. Of course, they're off to college now too, but it's a different,
How old are your kids?
21 and 18.
Okay. They won't be coloring then.
No. Well, I might. Yeah.
Won't have that, but, no, that'd be a great idea to put that up on, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And somehow do it in such a way where you can get their attention for more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I use old people's social media, so even that doesn't
I
work,
don't
but,
even do that anymore.
so there you go. That's fair. Thank you.
The other leadership team questions? We're going to get the audience, but I wanted to cover up here first, so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
First, thank you. I'd commend the sheriff for the immediate openness that he has presented to the public that I think maybe we didn't see as well with the prior sheriff. So I really commend you. Secondly, the sheriff made a presentation to the Board of Supervisors on January 31st, and his staff was with him. And it is online and available to look at digitally. And it's very informative about what the sheriff's department does and how they do it and the challenges that they're tasked with. And I suggest people get more involved what's going on with government, because government is putting the information out there. But believe me, folks, we're not very good listeners or recipients until our ox gets gored. And I suggest strongly that you reach out a little bit ahead of time and learn about the processes so your inquiries can be much more intelligent. So kudos to the sheriff and the department.
Thank you. I want to say something real quick because we get this a lot. And it's one of my pet peeves, and I try to correct people as nicely as I can. The sheriff's office is not a department. We are not a department of county government. We are a standalone office by which the sheriff and his employees get to exercise the powers of public trust. So I want to make that clear with everybody. We work for you. We work for the people. So my little civic lesson.
One other thing. He deserves it. I am also on the Charter Review Committee. We are looking at certain aspects of the county charter. The county charter includes in it a formula that basically establishes the base pay rate for the deputies, Section 504. Would you, I would offer the invitation, but I can make a formal letter to you. We would like you or someone within your department who is familiar with the recruiting and the competitiveness of the salaries to come and talk to us on that particular thing,
Sure.
that issue,
Absolutely.
because that formula has also impacted other county salaries that look at the sheriff's department as a baseline or a parallel. So it has echo ramifications. So we would greatly appreciate. The Charter Review Committee is a public committee. It holds meetings every second Monday at the county seat in the supervisor's quarters at 5 p.m. We're also on Zoom, and the public is welcome to come, listen, participate, and make public comments on that. Thank you, Sheriff.
Absolutely.
Robert, I think you had a question, right?
Okay, actually, mine was more of a request, kind of a selfish request, but getting into requesting a little bit of your time, if possible. I'm with the Heritage Senior community down south, and we would love to have you join us in a forum. If I can coach you and push your arm for an hour or two sometime in the future.
Well, I think my schedule, you can I just call my secretary because my schedule is
That's
like, it's
fair.
busy.
All right.
It's busy. So absolutely.
We'll make that happen. Okay, good.
We
Thank
will
you.
always take the opportunity to go out and engage with our communities.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the leadership team before?
No,
we
I just, Sheriff, I just want to thank you for the response of your OES staff to the recent storms was outstanding. Lieutenant
Thank
Morton
you.
and the team.
Thank
I did
you.
have the pleasure of working in there with them, and for your information, the sandbags that are piled up outside available to our community sitting out here are as a result of OES and the work and the funding, and it was a good response, well coordinated for the whole county, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're strong believers in the police are the community and the community are the police. And we work well together. And I'm proud to say that our community and our OES staff, we've had 2 major fires, flooding, snow, and we've literally lost 0 people. We haven't lost anybody. One, it's kind of a suspicious thing. We're investigating still, but we haven't lost anybody. So that's a testament to our staff, the people that are going out and doing the evacuations, our deputies, and our staff that manages these events. So.
If Lauren had a question, then we're gonna go to the public.
Yeah, no question. First, as a youth, I just want to say thank you for the development of the SHIELD program. As a youth who grew up in El Dorado County, the DARE program, the SHIELD program is very effective for students. As a high school student, I'll also say that prevention at the early ages is so important. So the question I had was, is the SHIELD program going to be involving middle schools at all, or is it only based on the elementary level?
Well, it'll evolve. So if we see a need for the program to get into junior high schools, absolutely, 100%. Just like our SROs, we have currently with our budget and what it allows us to do is we have 2 SROs in junior high school that are actively engaged with the kids and doing all kinds of stuff with the sports. I just got to think today where a couple of my SROs are youth coaches. I know when I was at Oak Ridge High School, I'm a baseball guy, so I was able to coach baseball for 3 years there. And just having that connection with the kids and you know, I had a carte blanche because I was the first SRO at Oak Ridge High School. And my job was to go down and interact with not just the baseball guys and the athletes, but I took my wife to the junior prom, the senior ball. I went to the concerts with the band. I went to the drama plays. So it's to interact with the kids. So if we have an opportunity to do that in the junior high schools with Welcome a Shield program, absolutely. I mean, that magazine, the second one with I think it's the human trafficking on it, that's for that kind of age group right there on up in the high school. So yeah, we would definitely do that.
Okay, please take questions now or comments from the audience. You can call them.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name's Patricia Kriz. I have been here 50 years now. I'm a resident. My question is, I have been very discouraged by the proliferation and the increasing number of concealed carry permits authorized by the sheriff's office. What will your policy be? And I have one more question. Is your policy to continue to use the red flag laws and to enforce them as they are written, or is there any change in policy in that area?
My policy is if you are a law-abiding citizen who qualifies to carry a weapon, a concealed weapon, and you're a good upstanding citizen and you go through the proper training, that's your Second Amendment right. So that's that's my stance on that. And as far as the red flag laws, there are checks and balances and everything we do. If we get alerted to someone that poses a threat to the community, we have systems in place where we review that and we'll be able to enforce that.
Oh, there you go, Jen.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Yoder. I live here in El Dorado Hills. First of all, I want to thank you, Sheriff Leikauf, for your transparency already. And if you guys don't follow the Sheriff's Department on social media, you're missing out. It's entertaining, it's transparent, and I mean, you really keep abreast of what's happening in our county. Second of all, with regards to the SROs at the schools, I know I usually see I have 2 kids at Oak Ridge right now and 2 have already graduated, but peace of mind as a parent, having that SRO there is huge, like especially in our day and age. Is there an SRO at every school, and is that SRO there like the whole day? Is it full time? And how can we help, or like, where will you go within your budget to ensure that the number of SROs stays current to what it is?
Yes, we do have SROs at every campus on the West Slope, every high school campus, and like I said, we have two at junior high school. They're there for the better part of the day. However, as with everything, there are things that pull them off campus. Like when I was a SRO, I was a member of the school attendance review board. So getting pulled away to go and attend something like that. So there are different things within the community around the schools that they take part in that will pull them off the campus. What we've instructed them to do is to be on the campuses, and what we've identified as two critical hours they need to absolutely be on campus, and that's first thing in the morning, and that is during the school lunch hour. They need to be on the campus, visible to all the students and faculty. So as far as what you guys can do to help us, we're working with Ed Montalva, and we'll get this figured out where we're going to be able to keep SROs on every campus. I'd love to have an SRO on every single campus, including elementary school, because I just got back from a conference where we heard a gentleman speak on active shooters and school shootings and stuff, and the average time in return now is like 6 minutes and 30 some odd seconds, so short window. So having somebody on campus to react to something like that is critical. Also, this past week and a half, 2 weeks, we've met district attorney, probation, all the department heads. We've met, and we're launching this threat assessment team to, when we receive a threat, or someone calls and says, hey, check this out, or they see something on social media, a way that we can review each incident, make sure the lines of communication are open with everybody, and assess the situation properly, and make the best decision going forward for the school and for the student. And that will include a level 2 threat assessment team in case, it's like drastic, like what this kid was, there was something planned or something like that, and what we can do. So we're definitely proactive, and what we do here with our SROs and how we respond to schools. We have biannual active shooter training on campuses throughout the county that we work very hard at, and we reach out to every first responder in the community. I think fire came and worked. We did our last one at Marina School, and I want to make it as realistic as possible. So we had El Dorado Hills Fire. We worked with the fire first responders to be there and put on an active, like an actual training where they're having to come in and pull student triage and make decisions. So work with CHP. CHP's part of the process, and Placerville PD, South Lake Tahoe, Rancheria. So we extend the invitation for all of our first responders to come out and work. I could say it's based on population. There's also there's an element of response time to call. Okay, so with the majority of the population being down here, our normal typical day, you'll have 2 officers, 2 deputies assigned here. You'll have 1 or 2 up in Cameron Park, but mind you, those cross over a lot, so they can come down here and assist if calls for service get going down here too much. You keep that call for service time under a certain time, okay? When you look at when we come in and do the presentation, it actually shows you what the calls for service times are for each zone. So down here, the calls for service time are well within what the standard is, so to speak. When you start getting out into the Divide area or South County, those call for service times increase because there's only one deputy out there and covering a vast, a bigger area. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Basically population density then, right? Okay, thank you.
How you doing, Sheriff?
Good, thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for your service. And having been in law enforcement, I can tell, I haven't heard you stutter one time. You know what's going on, and you're doing a hell of a job. So you're the guy I'm glad you're running our county.
Thank you very much.
Now I'm going to get off your cuff and ask you a question. No. No, I need help. Need help. I'm the president of a homeowners association. In our committee, we have a parking, traffic, safety, and security committee. In that, we used to be able to get a call for services report, basically statistics, but it helped us to be able to evaluate what was going on in our neighborhood and those surrounding us. We're unable to get those anymore. And I'm wondering, is there a way to reinstitute a policy where we can get that data so that we can give it to our security and our neighborhood watches and stuff, obviously to help make the community a safer place?
Let me ask you a question. When did you stop getting it?
I believe it was about 1.5 years ago. Am I right with that?
What were you told?
I was not the president then, and the president then was the one that was getting it, and he was told that he couldn't get it anymore. And I don't think he got a specific reason. He tried a couple of different avenues, and it just didn't work out, and it kind of dried up.
Reports just not coming.
Yeah.
Let me look into that.
Okay.
If you want to give me your contact, I'll give you
Absolutely.
my card. Okay. I'll look into that to find out. Maybe there was a reason why. And I'm just going off, thinking out loud here. It could have been that there's so many homeowners associations here that if we do one, we're going to be spinning our wheels, getting them out to everybody. So I don't know. One of the things that I would like to do, I'm not making any promises, but one of the things I'd like to do is we get a weekly management report that breaks down how many incidents we have in El Dorado. It's not going to help you specifically in your neighborhood, but it calls for service incidents, deputy initiated incidents. So I might as well, I guess I can. Am I going over?
Oh, go ahead, you're fine.
All right. So just on average per week in El Dorado County, the entire county, we're averaging 1,300 to 1,500 incidents per week. That is calls for service, that is deputy initiated activity where they contact someone walking down the street suspicious, that is building checks, that is pedestrian checks, everything we do about 13 to 1,500 give or take per week. That averages out, calls for service per day, we're averaging about 142 with about 68 deputy initiated contacts per day. Arrests were between 35 and 50 per week, which averages out to about a little over about 6 or so a day. And reports were about 170 per week, which is about 24 to 25 per day. So I don't know if that type of information is necessarily going to help you, but I want to take this type of information and put it out on our social media so to be as transparent as possible. I want people to see the work that we're doing because we're extremely busy for the position people we have, which we have, we're sufficiently staffed. And for what we go out and do, we're extremely busy, but we like that. So.
Sure, thank you.
Socio-income area of people associated with that, so let's say somebody's in a higher income than less likely husband with or have that on their possession.
Cannot. What I can tell you is again, I've done a little bit of reading on this, but this is, I'm going to basing my opinion on what I've read. There is no financial who's getting this stuff and who is taking it. But I will tell you that we live in a society nowadays that takes a pill for everything. We take a pill for energy. We take a pill to go to sleep. We take a pill to help us focus. We take pills for everything. So when they're making these Mexico, they're getting, just to put you in a little bit, they're getting the stuff to do it from China. China ships it to them. They get the chemicals and then they literally go into a clandestine lab under the cover of darkness and they put the ingredients together. You can YouTube this stuff, by the way, how they do it. And they make this like they make a Betty Crocker cake. They mix it in a mixer and then they spread it out. And they're not pharmaceutical people, so some of this stuff, we're talking granules. If it's off, they go to pill form and press these in the pill pressers. That's why we're seeing 6 out of 10 pills that are coming up have lethal doses of this stuff in it. So there is no, it's whoever's getting this stuff and taking it. I read a story of a dad in Colorado. You YouTube this. He lost both of his teenage sons in back-to-back days. And they were middle class, upper middle class family. No issues that he noted, and he lost both of his kids back-to-back days. So this stuff is dangerous, and we need to get the community behind educating. I know, Sheriff Brown, I can't think of his first name, but he's a Santa Barbara sheriff. He's the sheriff of Santa Barbara. He's also the vice president of the Sheriffs of America. And they're calling on our government, our federal government, to get involved in holding Mexico accountable for these people that are manufacturing these fentanyl drugs. And they compared it to, on 9/11, we lost over 2,300 Americans, a terrorist attack. But in 2022, last year, we lost 107,000 Americans to this drug overdoses. So we're trying to get the federal government, we're trying to get people to call the federal government, and it's two cartels in Mexico that are responsible for all this. And along with that comes the sex trafficking, the human trafficking, and the guns, and all the violence that goes with it. So. My team, I'm the chair of this regional team. We were the first high intensity drug task force unit in our region to recover, I think it was 20,000 of these pills, and they were coming up and they were light blue. They're light blue, and they're called M30 pills. And they're made to look like, you were there.
Starburst or something.
Well, no, the original ones, they were taking the place of.
The blue ones, yeah.
Oxycontin.
Oxycontin, yeah.
And when Oxycontin, they started regulating that a lot, you started seeing black tar heroin making a comeback, and people were using heroin. Well, now we have this right here, so they're making this look like, it looks like a regular pill that you would get from a pharmaceutical company. It's counterfeit, and you take it, and you're dying. This team that I'm overseeing, the first team in the Central Valley North to recover colored pills. So they're now making these pills down there to look like candy. They're yellow, purple, red, blue. And these ones that they recovered were actually flavored and scented to smell like the fruit. But what they're trying to do with these kids, we tapped into our informant base down in Mexico, and we're like, what's going on? What are they doing? They're trying to recruit kids. I don't believe them, but they went to the people that are manufacturing this stuff. They said that's not their goal. But I don't know why you would be making stuff that look like candy if you weren't trying to attract kids. Because I know that's what tobacco companies are doing now with flavored tobaccos, and I know that's what alcohol companies are doing now with all the flavored alcoholic drinks that are out there. So I have a hard time believing that. So.
And having seen the photograph, they're actually rainbow colored and they look exactly like a candy, not like a pill a lot of times. So they're producing anything and everything that can damage our kids in particular, but adults as well.
Yeah, so I do plan on probably doing some town hall, a real push for town hall type meetings to get this type of information out. And also I'll touch on one here, probably not so much, but getting back from this conference that I was at, this gentleman that spoke talked about mass shootings, school shootings, children that kill, serial killers. It was the whole gamut. And what's scary that's going on in our world right now, and he pointed out my job out here before because son. So I figure I'm pretty good on what's going on out there, but, has anybody, and I'll give you some homework. Has anybody heard of the video game Grand Theft Auto 5? Okay, Grand Theft Auto 5 is the #1 all-time highest grossing video game ever sold. It made, I have this stat correct, it made over 800 million in its first weekend of sales. They're currently, I think it was produced in 2018 or 2019. There's kids in here, they would probably Google it and tell me I was wrong with this. 2018, 2019. They're currently working on the Grand Theft Auto 6 to be released. This game, one of the objects in this game is shooting cops. Another way you can score points, and I watched this, was you can pick up a prostitute. And you can have sexual relations with the prostitute as you're interacting with this game. Language, the language that's being used, everything. And then the grossest part of this is when the female gets out of the car and walks off, you as the player can go behind the female and knock her to the ground and beat her and boot her body with bullets and take your money back and you score points. It is absolutely disgusting. This is Grand Theft Auto 5. And there's a way to kind of get into another window of this game to where I watched it. Pull up to a school, you're the person playing the game, you get out, you put 2 shells in a shotgun, you walk up to a group of students, you throw a homemade bomb, blow the students up. School resource officer who's standing at the front steps of the school comes running down, shoot him with the shotgun, and then you go on a shooting rampage in the school. So I tell people this because kids are playing these video games. And the real hard part of it is video game companies control the ratings of the games. And they rate it as a team game. So if you're not actively engaged as a parent, and your kid comes up and says, hey, can I, Mom, Dad, can I get Grand Theft Auto 5? And you don't know what's behind, you don't know what this game's about. They're throwing it, or you're going over to the person, I think they do keep it under a lock. And but you get the game, you go up, and they're selling this at Walmart, they're selling it at Target and other video game stores. So when kids are coming home and playing those games for hours, I checked, you don't have Grand Theft Auto 5. He's like, you wouldn't let me get that. And then you see what pop culture is throwing at them. I would invite everybody to look up the artist Rihanna, who opened the Super Bowl with this song. That you can videotape, go home and YouTube and pull up the video that she has released. It's called, my language, It's Better Pay Me My Money. It has 45 million views on YouTube, and watch the video. It will make you sick. And then the other one is Cardi B, who's an artist, who, when you pull into McDonald's, she's the person you see on the menu, because she's the spokesperson for McDonald's now. And pull up her videos, press, and wow, who said that? Pull it up. Pull up WAP, pull up press on YouTube and watch those videos. And then Rihanna's husband or boyfriend or whoever he is, his artist name is A$AP Rocky. Pull up that and watch his video called Bush the Boy. It has millions and millions of views on it. And this is another video about guys going out and killing cops. And the cops are dressed up like fat pigs, and they make a mockery out of them, and they kill them. They slaughter them, active shooters. So there's some homework for you to go over, but this is the type of stuff, again, if I could put a bubble around El Dorado County, that's what I want to do. But that's also going to be educating our citizens and our parents, grandparents that this is the kind of stuff that our kids are having to, they're dealing with now. What's being thrown at them. So I'm sorry I went a little long.
So that's okay. We need to put a wrap on it, and we will have the sheriff back. So I'm going to take one more from the audience. We have one online, and then we need to move on. So who's the last one?
I had some, Tom Fox, I had some comments, but that just kind of threw me off a little bit. I think for every officer that dies in a line of duty, they ought to be named responsible, that company, for putting that kind of crap out there. Anyway, what I wanted to say was congratulations on your election. Thanks so much for coming by Foothills Church. We appreciated that very much. And, you know, we all got your back, and we appreciate that. I had one question and a comment. One comment was that I did read that down in Mexico, the pharmacies that are getting pills, normal pills, ibuprofen, that kind of a thing, they have no control over those pills. And a lot of those pills that you're getting from legitimate pharmacies and even hospitals are laced with fentanyl. So anybody going down to Mexico, you want to make sure that you bring your own drugs with you and not buy them down there, because you just never know. And the actual question I had for you was, what is your metric for response time?
The measurement for response
Yeah.
time, that is when the time to call,
No, I mean the actual number.
the actual number or the calls for service down here.
Yeah, how long?
Response times?
Yeah.
I believe, don't quote me on this, but it was about 6 minutes.
Oh, I was going to say that we've had several calls, of course, down in our area, and that was about what we experienced. And I thought that was pretty darn good, considering the size of the county, as someone mentioned before. That's a really good response. I was kind of amazed. Like, wow, that's pretty good. So thank you for that.
Okay, so we have one online, alumni Marcus Worthington. Put him or she, I'm not sure.
Hi, my name is Marcus Worthington. I'm an attorney that lives in El Dorado Hills. I'm a former deputy district attorney of this county, a former deputy district attorney of Stanislaus County, a former deputy district attorney of Santa Barbara County as a volunteer, and a former student prosecutor out of Boston. I'm a former instructor for Project LEAD, which is similar to the DARE program, but much different in a number of ways. And if you dug around in one of the boxes that my mother made me take out of her home, you'd probably find a medal for a essay that I wrote in 5th grade as a part of the DARE program. I tell you all this because I want to strongly caution you against reviving the DARE program. I, like yourself, know better than most the damage that drugs do in our community, especially fentanyl and methamphetamine and heroin. I have extensive experience with this as more than a decade in public service. I also know how much that it contributes to the mental health crisis that plagues our court systems, that's become a revolving door for those with illnesses as things like meth psychosis become more recognized. The problem with the DARE program is that it's been studied widely since the 90s, extensively studied. And I would urge you to look into these studies, because what the program has been determined to have done was actually encourage youth to experiment more than to stay away from it. What the studies have found with the DARE program was that the number of youth that actually experimented far outweighs the number that ever decided to stay away from it. What they've determined with the DARE program is that it encouraged people to go out there and experiment with it, and that there's kind of a twofold conclusion there. One stems from the way in which the DARE program is presented, but also the lies in which the DARE program presented itself with as a fear tactic that youth later determined, oh, well, that was untrue. I got to figure out what is true. So I would really strongly encourage you, before you just revive the DARE program, before you build a new program based on it, reach out to the district attorney's office, talk to them about Project LEAD, find out about the successes of Project LEAD, because as an instructor, both in Placerville and Santa Barbara, Project LEAD is very different, has been shown to be very successful, unlike the DARE program. So while these things are exceptionally important, it's really concerning to me as, and I didn't say this, I'm now an attorney for the state that deals with collateral consequences of arrests and convictions. So I know, and I see this on a daily basis, I know how important it is, but it really causes me big concern when I hear that something like the DARE program's talking about being brought back, because it did so much more harm than good. And I hope you don't take that personally, hearing that you were a former DARE instructor, but you know, one experience that you had doesn't outweigh the damage that program actually did. The second thing that I want to talk about is GTA 5. I heard you talking a lot about that. I'll do the correction because it came out in 2013, since you were just looking for that. But There's never been a study that associated violent video games or violent TV or violent movies with any violent behaviors. Those kind of accusations have been made since the 1950s, that violent TV, violent movies, all these things contributed. What the studies actually show is the inverse, that those individuals who play these violent video games, that watch these violent movies, are actually less likely to be violent perpetrators. So while it's an interesting rhetoric piece to point to, and you can say morally these games are wrong, morally the things that these games allow you to participate in, we shouldn't be encouraging that. Correlating them to drug use, violence, and those things within our community is wrong, because there's no evidence to support that. The studies have been done and done and done. As you could hear, GTA 5 is the fifth in a game that came out in 2013. It's been widely studied, and there's no correlation to support that accusation whatsoever. So I'd really encourage you, if you're going to make those accusations, if you're going to levy those accusations, read up on some of these things, because I find it very concerning that those are the things that we're focusing on when there are serious violent issues in our community, there are serious drug issues in our community, and the things that are being focused on have no scientific basis in correlation to the issues that we're facing.
Thank you for your comments. One of the things that I've learned throughout my 33-year career here with the Sheriff's Office is data. When it comes to data is about as good as the people that are putting it in. And again, nationally, I don't know if you're looking at the program nationally and the statistical data nationally, what I care about is El Dorado County and our kids and our youth. Am I going to launch the DARE program? I'm not launching the DARE program. We're going to take a look at the best aspects of the DARE program and what we can do to keep our kids safe here in El Dorado County. That could be topics on bullying. That could be topics on see something, say something. I would encourage you to look at some of the programs in El Dorado County that we're currently doing right now, like the One Pill Can Kill, that's having a lot of success as far as getting out to our kids and getting kids information and getting them schooled up. So our SHIELD program will be one other tool that we can use to help keep our community safe. And as far as the video game and your comments about that, which I appreciate, I would invite you to look at Bill Chalmers, who did that presentation and showed video of one of the last school shootings in, I believe it was New Zealand, and the active shooter situation in Buffalo, where active shooters are now wearing GoPros to go in and commit these violent acts. And when you look at the video of these things, and Phil Chalmers in his presentation puts them side by side, you can see the correlation where it's just mass casualties and it's like they're playing a video game. So I kind of beg to differ, but that's just my opinion. Again, on that video game, but when you have kids that come home from school and they're on this video game for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, I think that's doing more harm to those kids than good. And I don't know how you can sit there and say there's no correlation between it. I don't want to get into debate, but I'm not going to sit here and listen to, there's been studies, well, who did the study, first of all, and that there's no correlation that this does kids harm when they're on the game nonstop. So I'll end with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. I do want to add that I had the privilege of attending the Sheriff's annual award ceremony where they recognized staff for all the great things they've done, gave out a number of awards. Very well done again. That's one of the things they're really good at, is recognizing when people step up and do above and beyond within the service of the Sheriff's Office, not Sheriff's Department. But EDSO is what it's officially called, so we'll all have to use that vernacular Sheriff's Office. Forget the department part. So I took that to heart, and thank you, Jeff, for that. So, all right, thank you. So with that, I'm going to move on and go through the supervisor's communications very quickly, hopefully. Nothing new on Central, nothing new relative to Costco. We're asked those questions all the time. Number 3, relative to the zoning administrator public hearing, I do want to update you on that. I talked to Karen Gardner, our department head for planning and building today, And planning is expecting a response on several different pieces of information they've requested from the proponents. They have not received that yet. And once they receive it, they're expecting to have to take at least 30 days to review that before they will schedule some kind of a public hearing. The public hearing may be through the zoning administrator, which they previously defined, but that hasn't been decided yet. So it may go through the planning commission, depending on what kind of a response they get to the questions. But at this point, we can only anticipate that it'll be May or June before a hearing date can be established. And as soon as that is established, at whatever earliest date is, we will let you know what the date is. Because again, that's the first opportunity for a public hearing. That is our normal process, to have public hearings on these matters. The meeting APAC held was a public meeting that was not a public hearing. So you need to put that in context. So hopefully that's better understood, and I can answer questions after the meeting relative to that. But yeah, Carol. Sure.
I'm Carol Lewis, President of the Taxpayers Association of El Dorado County. And for all of you who are looking for an item on a agenda, I would advise you to go to Legistar in the county and look up November 3rd, 2021. On the consent calendar is the last item on it. And the consent item talks about the CAO recommending to the board to authorize the CAO to sign a NDA on behalf of the El Dorado County with Dermody Properties, Discussion County staff regarding potential commercial real estate development. So for all of you who wanted the date, you can look that up. I would also like to tie into what Richard Ross had mentioned about the county charter. You should look into it because all of this is kind of connected. The county charter is being reviewed right now. We are one of, I think, 7 counties in the state of California that have a charter. In that charter, there's item 504. And 504 ties the county to unprecedented wage and pension increases with the sheriff's department. And at the present time, the county is also leading into other departments like the CAO, district attorney, to tie their salaries into the same package, and they're not law enforcement. This was amended in 1995, instituted in 1996, and the county is tied into it. This chief administrative officer, who's now retired, had come to the Taxpayers Association and admitted in the presentation that the Board of Supervisors, and this is past or present, is building a house of cards because we have a CalPERS pension debt that is huge and is continuing to grow because of 504. So I would advise you to look at it and how this ties in. Basically, the county is going to be spending money on retirement packages and wage increases. The sheriff, the last time we checked, is making $537,000 on a population of 191,000 people. Now that's a complete package. EA is tied into that, the CAO tied into that, the county council tied into that. And they're on the march to do it more. So as our tax money is being paid to the county, they're putting more and more of that money into these pensions salaries, which means that we get less services. And when we get less services, they go hunting money. And the county will start increasing fines, fees, penalties, permits, and reassessments. And also go to projects like this to build a better tax base. Because that's what they have to have to feed this thing that they have entered into. So check out those two things. Got the agenda item. Check out the county charter and please participate. Because if you don't, you're going to be paying a hell of a lot of money for a lot of nothing because they can't provide the services.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, the next item, just to make it final, the Human Rights Commission was disbanded by a majority vote of the Board of Supervisors, 3-2. We presented the information on that before. And the last one, the annual traffic impact fee review and approval is on for the April 4th Board of Supervisors agenda, i.e. tomorrow. El Dorado Hills, which is called Zone C, will have a 3.2% increase. And I've listed a number here, $35,509 for a 2,000 to 2,099 square foot single-family residence. Obviously, it varies depending upon the size of the home, but that is for public review tomorrow before the Board of Supervisors. So if you have an interest in what the traffic impact fees are, I would encourage you to attend that meeting, and you can do it by Zoom. You don't have to be there in person. So that's the last item I wanted to share. And I think given the hour, we're going to move right into our leadership team progress reports very quickly here. We start with public safety, and I always like to afford the opportunity for the Sheriff's Department, CHP, and our El Dorado Fire Department to report. So I don't think there's an additional report from the Sheriff's Department. I think we've heard enough from them, but I think Andrew Brown is here to talk to the CHP report. So welcome, Andrew.
You're always welcome.
Should be green.
All right, again, I'm Officer Brown with the CHP. I have Sergeant Croxton. He's our new sergeant that just got here to the Placerville area. He's spent a little less time than me on the department, but has done the things better than me, so he's a sergeant already. Just minor reports for D1, which I focus my statistics on. We had, and I'll report some first quarter numbers. Crashes in District 1, it's about 39 off freeway, 42 on freeway crashes that the CHP investigated, so 81 in total. That's of the 362 on the western slope that the CHP investigated, so that's about a 22%. So right about where the share should be, with 20% being 5 districts in the county. Then DUI arrests on the western slope for the first quarter, the 70, 9 of which were in District 1. So that's about a 13% share of that. 179 DUI arrests in total for the first quarter by the CHP on the western slope of El Dorado County. 20 of those were in District 1. So again, right there, meeting its share in District 1. There's a lot of people that don't come to these meetings and don't often hear my voice, but I just want to introduce myself. I'm the Public Information Officer for the CHP office in Placerville, which covers you all here. El Dorado County is majorly unincorporated, and so the Highway Patrol is tasked with patrolling and enforcing all traffic-related laws on all highways unincorporated and publicly maintained in the county, which is vast. The only incorporated township or city that we cover in our geographical area is the city of Placerville, which, all things considered, is a postage stamp for city size. The only other city is South Lake Tahoe, which we don't cover. That's not in our geographical area. So any traffic concerns, vehicle code-related concerns, golf carts, scooters, helmets, bicycles, loud exhaust, things like that, that comes to the Highway Patrol in Placerville, and we address those things directly with enforcement, education, and programs that we have. So if you have any questions about what we do, bring concerns to us, chronic issues, you can call the office, area code 530-748-2450. If it's an acute issue, ongoing, somebody's burning donuts, it's reckless driving, that is a deadly thing. It could be deadly or cause property damage. That's dangerous. If you want to call that in right away, you can call that into 911. An acute speeding issue or something else like there's traffic in front of Oak Ridge High School and the kids are just not crossing properly or they're jaywalking or something else like that. You can call our non-emergency dispatch number 916-861-1300. Again, that's 916-861-1300. We're dispatched out of Rancho Cordova, so that's why it's a 916 area code with you all in El Dorado Hills. So any questions for the Highway Patrol or any questions for Sergeant Croxton or myself, feel free right now, I guess.
Not seeing any. We do have one person on Zoom who's got their hand raised, Whitney. So let's see if this is a question for you. I hope it is. Whitney, are you there?
Apologies. It's not. I will happily lower until public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Whitney. All right. Go ahead. Yeah.
One of the big issues on 49 South going towards Clinton, a lot of issues with the S-turns going down there. If you notice now, you see all the different arrows. They're pointing to mark the curve. Because when it's foggy down in that particular area, you cannot see very well at all. So that was one of the things that I pushed forward. Now it's now because there's been a lot of deaths on that particular stretch of road.
Thought they were campaign signs, but no, okay. Oh, okay.
We won't talk about that.
Nonetheless.
Anyway, that was one of the things that I put in place because public safety is a big issue and I care about my constituents.
Yep, and we're a great conduit. Guess what? When you call our office, we will pick up the phone. A live person is going to talk to you. You don't get a lot of that these days with a lot of agencies or departments, and we pride ourselves in that. You'll get a live body there. Oftentimes, there will be an officer. If you want to talk to an officer, there will be an officer that you can talk to. Usually me. So anytime you want to talk, and we are a great conduit to other state agencies. That's our role, to get you to Caltrans, to get you to county DOT, or board of supervisors, things like that. That's our goal as peace officers. We're the main line of government that everyone touches on usually a day-to-day basis. So we take that role pretty seriously. But yes, if you have any issues with state highways or county highways, let us know.
Officer Brown, can you give the sergeant's spelling of his last name?
Croxton, Croxton.
Thank you, Andrew.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Sandy.
Croxton, Croxton, is that correct? All right, thank you, Sergeant. Very good. So with that, we will move on to our public safety report from our fire department.
Yes, Michael Leikauf, Deputy Chief, El Dorado Hills Fire Department. I guess in theory it's spring, although it doesn't feel like it. It's been cold and we've had a lot of rain this year, but it is time for everyone to start with vegetation management. And so we are actively and aggressively starting our programs. We're very lucky in El Dorado Hills. We have both unimproved parcels and improved parcels that we physically inspect every single one in our jurisdictional area here. So our Community Risk Reduction Division team is working very hard at that. And if you want to hear more about fire safety in that light, on April 12th at 6:30 right here, the Lake Hills Fire Safe Council is meeting. And at that meeting, there's going to be tours of the fire station. We're going to talk a lot more about defensible space. And so we'd welcome anybody to come to that and hear about all the good work we're doing there. The other thing we're real excited about is down in the business park next door, Station 87, is our training center. We've been talking about that. It's been on the horizon for 25 years now. That project is nearing completion, and we think we'll have the grand opening probably here this year, a soft opening probably in about a month and a half, and then a big opening later on where we're going to invite the community too. So real excited about that. And then we've been very pleased to be able to offer additional services as far as plan review goes. With all the growth in El Dorado Hills, there's an impact on the fire department in that we review all the plans for all the buildings, all the new constructions, all the homes. And so we're going to start out front here in our lobby with some over-the-counter plan reviews starting tomorrow. So 3 days a week will be additional services that we'll have available, and we're happy about that. It'll just lead to better service and better project management for our community. And that's the end of the report from the fire department.
Any questions for Chief Lilly? All right, very good. So with that, I'm going to ask that we go to Lauren since she sometimes.
I had a question.
Okay.
Maybe.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes, sorry. You left the mute thing, so I unmuted myself because I did have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Marcus.
So I had a question, and it does pertain to Project Frontier, but my question actually is for the fire department. One of the buildings that's proposed for Project Frontier is going to be 110 feet tall. It's kind of a multi-part question. First, do you currently have a ladder truck that can accommodate an incident with a building that size? Secondly, because I know the answer to that question, how much would acquiring a ladder truck of that kind cost, and how much would it cost to maintain it? And thirdly, would there be any cause to purchase such an item for the fire department other than to accommodate that singular building within the El Dorado Hills area?
Okay, yeah, no, thanks for your question. Here at Station 85, we do have an aerial ladder truck, which is the common one with the big ladder on top that you see driving around. So we do have an aerial ladder. It reaches 108 feet. Based on my understanding and hearing some of the meetings of the buildings, that aerial ladder will reach the roof of the building as it's being designed. So that's what we're being told at least, but I would say that until we see the plans and until we fully analyze them, that'll be one of the questions that we look at, not just on this project, just for your awareness. We look at fire department access to every single building that's built, and this one will be put through the same exact tests that we would on any other building that's being built. So it not only is the size of the building in terms of its height, but it'll be the footprint of the building. We'll make sure that our hose lines can reach. We don't take a political stance on whether you should or shouldn't build a building. We evaluate the building as it's being proposed, and we make sure that if it's built, that the fire department can properly protect it. whether it's getting on the roof, taking hose lines inside, have enough firefighters on duty. So there are impacts to everything that's built. This project, we will carefully analyze and are carefully analyzing it. But the policy decision on whether it should or shouldn't be built is something that's handled at a different level than ours. But we are in the process and we are actively engaged in looking at this building.
Chief? So with that, let's go to our Youth Commission report from Lauren.
Yes. So first, on some positive news, the El Dorado County Youth Commission, which is a group of students that are selected to represent all the district high schools, recently won the Outstanding Community Organization Award, which was presented by the El Dorado County School Board Association. Recently, we've been doing a lot of work related to mental health and also with connections, bridging divides between students, basically making education spaces to be a more comfortable, safe, and just a better environment for students altogether. We have an upcoming April meeting with several community leaders in order to present our peer advocate program that we're going to be trying to implement in all the local high schools. Also, we have recognized that there is an extensive need for wellness programs, and we're seeing a lot more outreach from the on-site wellness centers, especially at the high school levels. We're kind of getting to that season where it's going to be closer to finals and to large exams like the advanced placement exams. So we've been seeing an extensive amount of outreach from the local community organizations focused on wellness in order to make sure that our students are staying safe, staying healthy, and basically trying to protect our students' mental health, which is incredibly important. And I would encourage you to reach out to your students and your children to make sure that they're feeling supported during a very stressful time. And then finally, I think another cause that we're starting to focus in on is recognizing a lot of our youth advocates within our community. It's so important to have student involvement when it comes to community groups such as this and having student voices be heard. So lots of organizations like Hands for Hope and even the Youth Commission have been doing a lot of great work in order to being able to spread awareness about issues within the community and to represent students. So I wanted to throw in some recognition for those students as well.
Lauren? So with that, I'm going to move to Cindy because her alma mater has a playoff game tonight. So you'd have to guess one of two schools, right? Either UConn or San Diego State. San Diego wins. So I'm let her give her report because she wanted to see at least the second half, right?
Thank you so much. Happening in El Dorado Hills this weekend, El Dorado Hills CSD is having their free Easter egg hunt at Promontory Park at 9 o'clock. And also at that event, they're going to have pictures with the Easter Bunny from 9 to 11. And that same day in the afternoon, they're going to have an aqua egg hunt at the El Dorado Hills CSD pool from 2 to 4. April 15th, there's going to be a nature walk at Bass Lake. It's from 9 to 11 a.m. And they're going to be meeting at the Selwood Field parking lot. And then finally on April 22nd, the El Dorado Hills CSD is having an April Pools Day, they call it. It's from 1 to 3 p.m. and it's going to be free swimming for anybody who wants to do that at the CSD pool.
Very good. So with that, let's go to Robert Williams for our EDH District 2 Communities Report.
This being my first meeting and also being the first time that El Dorado South Hills has been represented, I asked our supervisor over here, the man who asked me to join and be part of this committee, what is to be expected in this role? And he said, George said, just do what I do, listen to the people and react and do the right thing for the people. And that's what I hope I will be able to do and serve in this particular role. As such, I also sat on the, as Tim does and John does, on the El Dorado Hills APAC committee. As an APAC member, and I'm going to defer to John on that issue, I try to be, as they do, all the other officers do, try to be as balanced and on the review as humanly possible. So now, having said that, and apart from that rule, I need to be able to say, as a new member of this leadership team, that everybody that I've talked to, everybody I know, with a very few exceptions, are adamantly against Project Frontier. Adamantly against the process that's been advertised up to this point, and in bewilderment why the supervisors have not insisted on public hearings and not insisted that your staff members who report to you as supervisors, because that's what supervision is all about, why you have not asked them to go forward and actually do the process not in a clandestine fashion, which it may not be, but that's the appearance that we're seeing, that they're not in a clandestine fashion, not hidden behind non-disclosures, but very forthright. So one of the concerns I'm hearing on a regular basis from the people I talk to in my senior community are our friends over at Blackstone and other places is the process is broken and needs to be cured. And the amount of aggravation, I would dare say anger, is very real, it's palatable, and it's only going to get worse if that process issue does not get fixed, and fixed as early as tomorrow. And that's what I highly recommend you guys in closed session take a look at what you can actually do to tell the planning department to put this in an environment where we can have full hearings. The other issue, apart from the process, is that what I hear from the people in the South, and no, the South is not going to rise again. The South has always been there. We've just been ignored. Is that the location is patently wrong. It's divides two vibrant, or actually three vibrant communities right now, right next to it, plus a number of communities just north of that. The supervisors have over the years, I think, bravely and appropriately developed a number of specific plans that have been designed for the needs of those particular communities. Valley View has a plan that's unique to the Valley View and the people in the Blackstone and that area. Certainly the Carson Creek Pacific Plan, which was designed specifically for a senior community. And now we have right now 3 communities in play, was designed specifically for the needs and wants, desires of that senior community. When we're talking about the number of diesel trucks, large trucks, noise, other pollution that right now is being evaluated by a number of people, but including APAC. Again, I'm just reporting what I'm hearing. There could be devastating impacts on the health and well-being of several thousand seniors. And that has not been really addressed or considered up to this point. Certainly, from our perspective, what we have seen, it has not been considered. Another item, obviously, is as a not so much closeted environmentalist, but a very open person who wants to protect Carson Creek Preserve. Many of you don't realize what an ecological treasure we have there. And there's a number of species that are threatened and a special interest that have been identified. And when you look at those species and then you examine the proposal made by ESA, which is the environmental experts on this particular frontier project, you'll say on one hand, there's an established known set of facts that these things exist. On the other hand, they say there's not going to be any significant impact. They also state that there is going to be some runoff and that will occur. But that runoff's all going to Carson Creek. What happens to these endangered species when that occurs? You can't reverse a destruction of an ecological environment. So now we're dealing with seniors that could have their health impacted. We have an ecological treasure that'll definitely be destroyed from my view. We have communities that moved out there for the purpose of being in a rural environment with minimal light impact, certainly minimal pollution impact, and we are already living in an environment where the traffic is already almost at the breaking point. So I guess I'm going to wrap this up because it's been a long day. But this issue is only going to get louder if the environment and the process is not brought out in the open. Because right now it's viewed as a travesty. So. So much for the opportunity.
Okay, we did promise that any Zoom participants that had their hands raised that wanted to comment on this as part of our open forum, we're welcome to do that at this point. So Nicole Black has raised her hand. Do you not see that?
Oh, there she is.
Okay. Go ahead, Nicole.
Hi. Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're fine.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Nicole Black. I'm a homeowner both in Ridgeview and in Fairchild Villages. And I'm a resident with my family of El Dorado Hills, and I raised my 3 sons in this community. I'm here to address my concerns about the handling of Project Frontier. I want to begin my remarks by quoting a very wise man, Mahatma Gandhi. Quote, "The true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members." And to bring his comment even closer to home, Vice President Humphrey also said, quote, "The moral test of government is how that government treats those who are in the dawn of life, the children, those who are in the twilight of life, the elderly, those who are in the shadows of life, the sick, the needy, and the handicapped." I asked our leaders, and today in this community and in this county, where is your moral compass? Why did you seek this leadership position, and how do you want to be remembered? I have numerous concerns about the project, but let me touch on just one. The application states there will be 1,250 trucks daily. Minimum, I think, when you think of Amazon Prime days, et cetera. These trucks will be emitting lethal particulates. We see death rates, asthma rates increase within several miles of these types of facilities. We have several schools and a senior community, plus numerous homes adjacent to the proposed facility, not to mention the protected wildlife. This is not the right place for a facility of this type. I would like to know by when the fact sheet that was just promised will be published. And although I believe you partially addressed this earlier this evening, I'm requesting that planning administrator decision be moved to the full planning commission and that a decision be deferred for at least 60 days. I think you alluded to some parts of that earlier this evening. And I am asking, what are the appropriate next steps to submit this request? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, I see Marcus is with us again. Marcus, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Marcus Worthington. As I previously stated, I'm an attorney that lives in El Dorado Hills. What I didn't say is that I live on Avanti Drive. I live across the street from where this project is proposed. These trucks will pass within 50 feet of my home, and the building will be within 150 yards of my home. I have 2 young children, a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, and this project will expose them to extreme amounts of pollution. It gets hot here during the summer, but as most people know, it gets cool at night. I like to open up my windows and laugh at my neighbors who run their ACs all night because it gets cool enough to just cool the house off that way. I'll never be able to do that again, not for 1 second. My home will never be dark. We're a dark sky community. It will be illuminated 24/7. It's hilarious to suggest that the floodlights that will be at this facility won't illuminate the entire surrounding area. I found it disturbing earlier that one of the members said that the Board of Supervisors didn't sign this, that the county signed it. However, what shows in the public record is that after consulting with county council, the Board of Supervisors unanimously voted to authorize the NDA, and the difference between that and actually signing it yourselves is semantics. I've been a public servant for more than a decade. I come from a family of public servants for more than 50 years. And that's not how public servants should behave. In my profession, we call it the smell test. It says if something feels wrong, then it is wrong. And hiding behind this NDA, hiding behind the processes, hiding behind the Brown Act to not come out and say that this is wrong and this just doesn't belong in our community is not how we expect our representatives to behave. My family is terrified because our home will become unlivable. One of the previous speakers talked about the Carson Creek Preserve and the various wildlife, but I want to point something out. There are 8 rare species that live on that plot, 14 threatened species and 21 endangered species in addition to 5 heritage oaks. And you're talking about destroying that. This doesn't belong here. There are numerous schools. There are expected schools that are supposed to be built right next to this that could never be built. This is not acceptable. Our Board of Supervisors, and we'll be addressing it tomorrow in public comment as well, has the authority to make votes, to bring this into the light, to change the forum in which it's being addressed, to make votes to say that we're going to stop work on all projects in a certain area within the county until it is handled appropriately. There is absolute authority to do those things, and it's not being done. And we deserve to know why. The audacity to say that this will have no significant impact on the homes that are within 100 yards or 50 yards or 50 feet of this project, that they will have no impact on the environment and the animals that live in the area, that will have no impact on my family, that will have no impact on me, who runs along Latrobe every single day. To say that the 1,280 trucks of 1 truck a minute will have no impact on my breathing as an asthmatic, when the truth is that warehouses half this size bring 10 times that number of trucks will have no impact, is ridiculous. This needs to be brought into the light. Our Board of Supervisors absolutely has the authority to do that. They also have the authority, and I'm wondering why they haven't done it yet, to not renew the NDA if you read it. They have the authority, or it automatically renews, and they haven't done that either. So that is what my public comment is. Bring this into the light and stop this project for our children, not just the elderly that live across the street, but the children that are going to have to live with this for the next 80 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, Whitney, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Whitney, and I also live on Avanti, directly in the path of this project. I have written to dozens of county officials, Board of Supervisors, and just continue to receive basically the brush off, and I'm extremely frustrated. The zoning administrator is absolutely the wrong body to be hearing this. And even if it was the correct body, the zoning is incorrect for this land, this use. It is per the county's own zoning regulation, research and development, which is intended to provide areas for the location of high technology, non-polluting manufacturing plants, research and development facilities, corporate and industrial offices, and support service facilities in a rural or campus-like setting, such as a business park environment. Project Frontier's absolutely massive warehouse distribution center is zoned as heavy industry in its nature, and it does not meet the requirements of an R&D zoning. Heavy industry is for warehousing and trucking. The uses associated with this district are likely to generate significant levels of truck traffic, noise, pollution, vibration, dust, fumes, odors. And per the county's own regulation, it says heavy industrial districts are unsuitable adjacent to residential districts and even some commercial uses. This whole process has been, quite frankly, horrifying in its deceptive nature. The traffic impact report that was done for this project was done in May of 2020 during the height of COVID lockdown. So the numbers they're providing are absolutely deceptive. They are not based on any actual data. We were all home. No one was driving on these roads. The assessor's map that the developer used in its application packet is an old map from 2014 and does not even show the houses on Avanti as existing because they were not built yet. That is misleading. It makes it appear like it is further set away from homes when it absolutely is not. The houses down in Heritage were already in construction when this application was submitted in April 21. Our house was purchased in December of 2018. These have been here for years, and using outdated information is absolutely misleading and deceptive and trying to make the project look like it will not be as impactful to those who live directly next to it. I live 150 yards from where the proposed stoplight intersection at Latrobe and Royal Oaks is. But if you look at the map they provided, there are no homes there. That is unacceptable. This whole process needs to be brought into the public light and needs to be brought through a thorough review, and an actual environmental impact report needs to be done specifically for this project. Using one from 1982 that was minutely updated in 2004 is yet again another deception. As was stated before me, there are dozens of threatened, rare, and endangered species on that plot. It absolutely will drain into the Carson Creek Parkway. The insane number of diesel particulate matter that will be dumped into the area will be eaten by our animals, will be then eaten by larger animals, will then be carried down the creek. The pollution will not just sit over this facility. It is going to be spread far and wide across the county and valley and have lasting impacts, not just on those who live nearby the project, and they all need to be considered. And lastly, one semi-truck trip is equal to over 1,400 car trips, which in one day, with their number of 1,280 semi-truck trips, would equate to over 1.8 million car trips a day. Our roads on Latrobe cannot handle that traffic level. They will be destroyed, and we as taxpayers will have to pay for the constant upkeep and management of that. And that is unfair to us. Thank you so much. I really urge you to move this project to the correct process with the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Whitney. Looks like we have one more hand raised, Rick, but I don't see a microphone, so. What that means?
Hi, can you hear me?
There we go. Okay, go ahead, Rick.
I was on my cell phone.
Ah, okay.
Thank you very much for your time. Let me just mute my phone. I have lived in El Dorado Hills for 10 years and 10 years in Folsom before that. I worked at our hospital Marshall for a dozen years and I'm very familiar with the I guess, western side of the county. I understand, and I think we all understand, that this business park has been here for decades, and we all enjoy the benefits of that and understand that there's going to be more development there. But I think what you're hearing, and we'll really hear as this conversation heats up, is that the project as designed doesn't work in our community. And so we look to you as leaders to find a reasonable approach and something that could work, that fits in within zoning that's already established as far as height and traffic. I commute through Highway 50, and the amount of semi-trucks associated with this proposal would astronomically cause, I think, a lot of detriment to the community. I also want you to think about the home values with this moving into the center of El Dorado Hills. It's going to cause a lot of people not to want to relocate here. And I think it's your duty to protect our home values. And the noise as well, I think, is a large concern that's been voiced. You can look at a couple things. Many of the complaints, if it truly is Amazon regarding noise, are on Google. And I would encourage you to look at the communities where they already are established and operating, even smaller facilities than the one proposed. and look at the noise complaints and the lawsuits and the settlements associated with noise, and Amazon, if in fact that's who's behind the Frontier project. Also, Reno outside to the east, Sparks has a big facility, and you can look at the impact to the community there. They don't have the housing, they don't have the support services. They have folks living in trailers and RVs, and the impact on the community was not well planned, and they are now having to figure out how to deal with that. And so there's an example fairly close to home that you can take a look at in regards to the impact that this project may pose on us here. So we look to your leadership, and you know, I think from my perspective, I would try to find some type of compromise, because I know there's going to be more development in the business park. Something of a reasonable size might be something that we could pallet. But I think if this project moves forward as proposed, anybody who supports that in our community leadership, I would not be voting for in the future. So I appreciate your time and listening. This is what makes America great. And I think government is local, and I'd much rather have this process than the state or the feds being part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. Just to clarify, my expectation is this fact sheet should be available by the end of this week or the first part of next week. That was kind of the commitment that was given to me, but I can't speak with that with certainty because I'm not in control of it. So it should be forthcoming in the near term. And as soon as that's available, we'll make sure that everybody's notified. My assistant Cindy has been keeping track of all the emails. We've got an Excel spreadsheet put together. As soon as we know more about this project, we will send you the information, including the fact sheet. So to make that aware. So with that, I would like to move on then to our, let's go to good governance, and then we'll come back to APAC.
Okay, thank you. I'll be brief because this has gone long. The Charter Review Committee is just a committee appointed by all 5 Board of Supervisors that reviews suggestions and ideas relative to how the county government charter can be better improved or just maintained to facilitate quality government. We can only take in information, consider it, assemble it, maybe discard that which is really fruitless, but ideas, when we only have the power to make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors, and they are the ones that act on whether these matters should be put on a ballot so the voters can decide whether they wish to change, modify the charter. We have considered a number of topics during our sessions, which began last September. Several that are still on the table being reviewed have to do with supervisors' term limits, possibility of electing an additional person in county government who is presently appointed, i.e. the Agricultural Commission. We are looking at these different things and receiving input from all interested and knowledgeable parties. That's why I offered an invitation to the sheriff tonight, which we will formally follow up with at our next meeting next Monday. So I entertain everybody to observe and participate. That's where government starts, in those chairs out there. You all have a big impact and a much bigger influence than you tend to appreciate. And also, these same chairs are here every month. Don't feel afraid to come and be in them. Thank you. That's it.
Richard. APAC.
Okay. So our meeting for April is scheduled for April 19th here in this room. It's a Wednesday. It's at 6:30 p.m. We will host it like this, where it'll be in person and virtual, a hybrid meeting. And depending on how much interest we have, we may live stream it on YouTube again, as we did last month. Now, last month we did talk about, we had the project presentation from the applicants for Project Frontier. And I don't know, the room holds how many, Chief?
114.
Legally. Fire Marshal was here, but we had probably more than that here in person. At times when I glanced just on Zoom, we had over 120. So this is a project that has, it's clarifying. It has a lot of interest. Many of the people that have commented tonight about the project, or maybe that have already left tonight, they're working on our volunteer subcommittees. We have a lot of questions. We had an opportunity to talk to the applicant before they made the presentation here back in, I think, the end of January, where we did a Zoom session with them and had some discussions. We have more questions. We submitted a long list of questions to the TAC meeting. They did provide the answers the week before our meeting last month. The Technical Advisory Committee, and it's basically a function of connecting with different agencies, primarily agencies of county government, schools, fire, everything in the county, utilities, that's fair too. And they get an opportunity to look at the project and provide some questions or some clarifications about what they see their impact may be. The fire department would address things like building height or room for their apparatus to approach the building. Utilities would say, hey, we have to build out these facilities in order to provide the service to them. A lot of different things. So we asked a lot of questions. Now, we're not an agency. We're just volunteers in the community. But we are invited to submit the comments. So we did. And a lot of times we don't get a feedback from that. We just submit the questions. Everybody at the TAC meeting hears them or reads them, and we don't hear anything back about it. This time the applicant did go ahead and they did answer a multi-page set of answers. I think most of those answers raised more questions. So our subcommittees right now, because we're considering, we heard last month that this might be at the TAC meeting on April 19th. Not a lot of time to be providing a thoughtful review or asking additional questions. So our volunteers have been working nonstop, and at least a dozen folks, probably closer to 20 in 2 subcommittees. And we have quite an extensive list of questions and observations, findings. Their draft. The draft traffic impact report. It's disappointing to me that they provided it to us at APAC. We posted it on the website. It's not posted on the county website anyways, because it is still a draft. So there's supposed to be some peer review going on with that project in the traffic impact report. So as we said, not a lot of time to analyze this. If this really was going to be on the zoning administrator agenda for the 19th. In the event that somehow miraculously it does make it to that 19th zoning administrator meeting, which is the Monday.
I'm told that won't happen, so.
Okay, fingers crossed, knock on wood. We had made arrangements so that we would switch to a virtual only meeting on the 11th of April. It looks like we won't have to do that. So at our meeting next on the 19th, we're gonna have our subcommittees present sort of their observations, their findings. We'll do a summary essentially because they're extensive. I mean, it's a long list. We've made those available to the APAC members that are voting members right now. They're reviewing them so that they can prepare themselves to ask additional questions or seek some more answers based on the committee's work. We might add to that. And the result of those is that we will probably submit those questions to the planning department and to the applicant to seek additional answers. We're not making a final determination. The thing about the project in terms of where we're making findings or making recommendations, the thing about APAC is that, we are literally just volunteers. We're not chartered to do anything. We have no authority to do anything. So we'll be passing on those questions. But when we do provide a final finding, there's 3 results we do. We support a project as it's proposed. We provide conditional support with requesting some modification, which nobody is entitled to honor, but sometimes they do. And when the process works well, they do. They work with us, the developer, and they listen to hear what the community says. Or if we just can't square it, we can't get there, we just say, we can't provide a finding of support for this. It's non-support. So that's what we're going to be looking at in terms of what the subcommittees are working on. And after that, we will likely have a vote of APAC members, voting members. There's 14 of us now that will determine, hey, do we want to add some more questions to this? Do we want to add some more comments, observations? And we'll submit that to the planning department, to the applicant, and hopefully get better answers. Full disclosure, everyone has a problem with the process as it's proposed right now with the zoning administrator. We don't know where it's going to be. It doesn't sound like the county knows exactly where it's going to be. So we believe that the planning commission is probably a more deliberative and thoughtful approach to analyzing the project. So we'll see where it shows up. Encourage everyone to show up. You can be virtual, you can be here, you can watch on Zoom. We are always looking for more volunteers. So, but we'll be here in the room, and we'll run through what the subcommittees have developed. And that's the only thing on our agenda because we wanted to make sure that we didn't cloud the issue.
Very good. Thank you, John. I'm going to cover 3 things very quickly. Economic Development, I just want to acknowledge that Supervisor Turnbow and I have been assigned the ad hoc committee to work with our Economic Development Organization to look at restructuring the way CDAC, Community Economic Development Advisory Committee, was scheduled. We don't have a date yet, but that we've been promised that that meeting will happen in April. It's being led by Kyle, is going to take the lead on that in terms of getting the meeting scheduled. So more to come on that later. Jumping over to infrastructure. DOT, I just want to acknowledge, is making significant progress in getting a lot of the down trees and debris removed from the sides of the county roadways. That's been a big help from the standpoint. It's been a long time. And we had record-setting storms, so you can understand why it's taken them so long to catch up with things. And then lastly, healthy communities. Kathy was not here, but I'm sure she'll have a more thorough report for us next month. So with that, are there any go-backs on anything related to our reports? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move to item 7, council member items. Correction, our next meeting is Monday, May the 8th. I got the 9th in here, but it's May the 8th, 2023, right back here. We'll have another agenda we'll put out. We have a guest speaker that's been identified. It'll be representatives, probably plural, but maybe just be one from our Commission on Aging, and they'll discuss the reopened El Dorado Hills Senior Lunch Program and other related activities. So that's what we have for that next month's activities. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:09 p.m. And again, thank you for all your attendance. Really appreciate the commentary. Nothing is final yet on anything, so stay active. That's all I can suggest. So stay informed. Thank you.